Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of Talking Dogs with Ante. As you know, normally we do our shows always on Wednesdays, but when we had our interview with Mike Gadsby, what it was, maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that, I promised to you that I will talk to Mike and try to get him back again to us. And I'm very happy he decided to do the part two, answering only your questions. I have no questions prepared for him. And I'm happy to see also that he's not losing his popularity, because the numbers are going up and we are already over 220 people watching it live and 40 comments. So keep them coming. I'm sure this is going to be another great evening. Good evening, Mike, and welcome back.
Good evening, Ante.
Tell me. First of all, we spoke just before we started. Now, I checked the video that we made 2 weeks ago on Best in Show Magazine's Facebook page, and your interview has in 2 weeks over 17,000 views. I think that's really amazing.
Incredible! I actually can't believe it. It's well, anyway, very humbling. So I was very pleased to see it.
Yeah, and how I mean, obviously there were people who contacted you after the interview. I mean, what kind of reactions did you get after we finished our 3.5 hours marathon last time?
Well, interestingly, considering it was such a marathon, it seemed that most people thought that the time went very quickly. So it was. I had very nice comments anyway, Ante. It was nice.
That's good.
Nobody would have lasted that long if they were hating every minute of it, surely.
yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, let's hope it's going to be the same this time. And by the numbers of, we got 50 comments in 5 minutes, and we hardly opened our mouths still. So I think it's going to be great again. I have spent my day today going through the interview that we did 2 weeks ago, and I have just printed out few of the comments. Obviously, there were so many, but few of them that I thought were interesting or nice. So I'm going to share them with our viewers and with you. I don't know. Did you manage? You said you didn't want to look at yourself again. So I suppose you still didn't manage to read all the comments. So let me take out just few most interesting ones for you. So we started 2 weeks ago, and there was Debbie Pearson, who was quite active, I must say. She said, "Oh, look at all of us waiting for the tall, crazy man who we all love." And then it was Tanna Grehak who said, "Hi, Ante. Michael will be amazing, I assure you." Silver Sea Weimaraner said, "Watching from Western Canada, I showed my class beach to Michael at the Del Valle shows in California 10 years ago. He gave her best beach from the classes. She went on to win multiple Canadian best in shows." Stuart Smith said, "Andrew Brace, he's also overlooking the massive influence his breeding has in Smooth Coat Chihuahua through champion regime Delta Force and siblings." Catherine Phelps said, "Loving this. Michael is so open and honest. It's like sitting with him, just having a chat. Great stuff." Caroline Fry said, "Linda Collins would be loving your admission regarding the Spinone. Mike, I miss the Batley Farm gatherings." Judy Hutchinson said, "My favorite breeder. Proud to call him a friend." Katrina Caffrey Wadewan said, "Love Mr. Gadsby's honesty and passion as a judge, a true gentleman whom I had the honor of going under as an exhibitor at Belfast Dog Show, awarding my Weimaraner Beach her first CC. Thank you, a day that we will treasure and never forget. Your critique was wonderful." Lindsay Marshall, who is one of the regular viewers, said, "Definitely the best interview so far." Well, it was interesting. Debbie Pearson, while you were talking about Shelties, she wrote a comment saying, "Currently there is Sheltie people knitting voodoo dolls." Well, this was actually a very interesting comment from somebody who has been also extremely popular in my show, and that's Frank Kane. He said, "A little Vespish, Gadsby, never." So I think he didn't believe it to you. Gary Flick said this guy is a genius. Mila Niemi saying it's a privilege if you have a friend like you, Mike. You always help and we can learn so much from you. Very interesting interview. Celia Bell said Mike's memory for all these dogs and shows and people is incredible. Stelios Makariti saying, Michael, you are still so enthusiastic for dogs like the first time we met at Crafts in 1996. Amazing. Ellie Graham Mordecai said the voice of reason as usual. Shirley Jones said the most engaging and knowledgeable dogman of a generation. So kind in his acknowledgement of all who helped him along the way. Love Mr. Gadsby, and long may he continue to share his love and expertise of pedigree dogs with newcomers and all fellow breeders. There are a few other comments, and I'm going to read them a little bit later, so that you can see that people have really loved the last one. Anyhow, while I was talking, now we have 67 comments and almost 300 people watching from all around the world as usual. I want to ask all of you, please don't put any questions immediately, because I have taken out the questions that we got during the last interview. And then when we finish with that, you can post your questions here, and I'm sure Mike will be happy to answer them. So we can start, Mike, with the question from Steve Barrett. As you are sitting on the same place like the last night, his first question was, did you knit your chair during the lockdown?
Did I what? Knit the chair.
Knit your chair during the lockdown.
It's a very comfortable chair. It's my best chair.
Yeah. Anyhow, Laura Wilshire asked you if you could own a breed from each UK group that you don't or haven't owned before, what would they be?
Oh, wow. Well, I think we've touched on Legato and Bracco,
Yes.
the Gundog, and funnily enough, afterwards you said that in the past I'd mentioned Braccos, and before my knees went, I certainly think that I would have been a great enthusiastic for that athletic breed, because I had the long legs and good knees to fly around the ring. I would have enjoyed those. In the toy group, Havanese, I think, are a great, fun, marvelous little breed that I've not had, but always admired. You know, I love that whole self-importance that they've got when they strut around the ring. They're a great little dog, and I think always fantastic temperaments. In terriers is it's such a unique group. It's very much I mean, there's such great professionals throughout the terrier group. I've always had a fancy for a cairn. I like a good cairn, and there's a couple of really good, great breeders in the UK, and of course Scandinavia has some fantastic cairn breeders. So cairns I like a lot in the terrier group. Kazons, I always fancied a Kazon. Again, I've seen some amazing American Kazons that I don't quite understand why they're not more in favour in the groups these days. You know, Kazons were a great group of best in show winners in the past, and I think they're a fantastic breed. You know, sound, nicely constructed. You know, beautiful heads on them. They're a smashing breed. I like all the Thigh Towns in the hound group. I had a desperation for a Saluki for the longest time, which I've never managed to realise. I've made a few inquiries in the past, and unfortunately, the ones that I really wanted are the ones that the breeders wanted to keep for themselves. So that's stopped me getting a Saluki. And in the working and pastoral group, I love Great Danes. I think they're a difficult breed nowadays because the big kennels are gone. So I think it's difficult to find something like a consistent quality in the world. But I still love a Great Dane. And I think because of my love of grooming and presentation, in the pastoral group, I love Bouviers. I think Bouvier is a beautiful breed. I always fancied the idea of Bouvier. So, but for the same reasons as the Racco with Manise, these big stuff is just going to be forgotten about.
Yeah. Well, can it be done something about these needs? Can we try to collect some money and do a kind of a miracle?
I believe on this space, but I think there's some things that you can put on where you beg for money. I believe money for my needs.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can get a fast electric wheelchair and whip round in one. So.
Yeah, well, okay. Let's not go so far. Anyhow, in the meantime, Nancy Evans wrote a comment and said, "Ask Mike how many times he has watched the previous interview back." And I think we all know the answer to that question. So, okay. Debbie Pearson has asked which dogs has excited him the most from the UK in the last 10 years.
God. And here's...
You see, if you have watched the interview, all these questions were there and you could be prepared. But okay, it's more fun like this.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a difficult one. Over the last 10 years, see, my mind I was congratulated for having such a good memory, but then time flies by, and it's difficult sometimes to think. I mean, we've had several sensational whippets that have been like awesome to watch. If I think about this involvement with David Guy and Eston, where there's a liaison with from two great Griffon kennels, and I think that there's been a couple of Griffons that I've seen that's caught my eye that I thought were world class, and I think it's a difficult one, really. I think I'm just trying to think of a specific dog because there's so many. I mean, we're blessed with still in this country with a lot of wonderful dogs. You see dogs sometimes, and you think to yourself, you can't understand quite why they don't. I've seen dogs. I saw a Cocker Spaniel at Birmingham National in 2000. What was the last year we had shows? 2019.
Yeah.
I think. And a Labrador. I think Dan Erickson had put a Labrador through that. I never noticed again. And sometimes a dog has a moment, and then you often think to yourself afterwards, I wonder what happened to that, because they were animals that really caught my eye, and maybe the people weren't showing so much. Maybe the judges were not so keen on them as I were. But I think it's difficult, really, just on that basis that there's so many good ones that it's difficult to pinpoint one in particular.
Okay. Mark James was asking you, how do you think we can encourage younger people into our hobby?
Well, for a start off, I think that when we're at a dog show, I think the youngsters that are the existing youngsters, the children of exhibitors who happen to be at dog shows, I think sometimes we're a bit dismissive of children, and I think we should always try to have it in the forefront of our mind that they're the next generation of dog people. So we should try, even if we're busy, to try, even to suggest, this isn't a good time, but so I think we've got to be a bit more open to be more giving to kids as and giving them as much encouragement and guidance as we possibly can. As far as trying to get youngsters from outside of the sport, funnily enough, Tom said something earlier, and that was that we used to have these when Pedigree and Pedigree was such a big deal in the dog game. We had top breeders recommended adverts that were, they were big advertisers. And of course, there would be, I did one with Clifford. I remember Clifford's, what was it? New chicken and sunflower oil is Clifford's current favourite. It was a bit of a mouthful. Anyway, the point was, there was top breeders who actually did these little adverts that went on. And I think there was the general public had there was a lot more about pedigree dogs to the general public. I mean, we really only have Crufts and the Crufts coverage in this country that helps us. So, and on that basis, I think possibly Kennel Club could get a little bit more involved with, more PR, more Facebook and stuff on the internet and the whole thing that was endorsing the benefits of dogs for youngsters, particularly. And I do know that I think when you're bringing up children, I mean, we haven't got children, obviously, but when you're bringing up children, I think it's a difficult path to take them through the years when they might be subject to influences that are negative. And I think that for kids who've gone through dogs and dog showing, I think those influences have passed them by. And I think, so consequently, I do think that having an interest like dogs and dog showing is really good to try and keep children in a positive path through those years when they can they can fall off that so easily because there's so many negative influences. So I think that if we were talking, generally speaking, I think if we were doing something more public relations, we touched on it last time with some of the anti-dog thing that's going on. And I think that not just using professional PR companies to try and protect the dog game, but indeed to protect, to actually flip it round and to endorse, the benefits of it. When you think about people who, there's in Great Britain particularly, there's, disabled people, older people, children, there's so much for such a wide spectrum of people. And of course, with pedigree dogs having so much diversity, there's a dog to suit everybody's needs. So, I gave Best Puppy to a smashing girl in a wheelchair. She'd been showing pugs for some time. I mean, I don't think it'd be particularly appropriate if she decided she wanted to show a Bracco, for instance. But, the pugs are trained brilliantly. It doesn't have any, and she's a youngster. She's been doing it since she was quite young. And so I think the possibilities in the dog game are endless for youngsters. And I think that we could just try and get that message out there. And particularly, perhaps our kennel clubs could do more with the PR, a bigger PR boost.
Yeah, I know that in some countries they work quite a lot with actually with schools, and they bring purebred dogs to schools, and they teach young children about history of the breeds and so on. I mean, also in Croatia, I remember 2 or 3 years ago, the students of the veterinary university made a kind of what you have at Crafts, this Meet the Breeds, and that went very well. So I think, there are a lot of possibilities, and it's just we should just find a way to put them in the right place.
And well, actually, funny enough, the Kennel Club do have a big event where there's a lot of. I'd forgotten about that because I've never actually visited it. But there is an annual event, like a Meet the Breeds Plus at Earl's Court, I think, in London. So I think that's very advantageous. But maybe again, the fact that I've never been is probably a bad thing, and maybe. The people who are organising that event should perhaps try and get more people, a few breeders and what have you, like me. There's lots of people like me who could perhaps do little casual chats to people about various breeds and the advantages of, considering showing dogs. The other thing is, of course, is as breeders, Auntie, one or two of us do behave a little bit like this, that there's something elite about it, which I've always disagreed with, because there are a lot of breeders who would never encourage anybody to breed for a start. And whilst I'm against, if somebody phones me up and their only interest of buying a puppy from me is to buy something to breed from, I would not, I wouldn't entertain that. But I do more and more talk to people about, if they're taking a really nice quality animal, whether they consider breeding later, because there are too few breeders now breeding breeds, and instead of endorsing everything, providing it's a sensible person, I think we've got to try and encourage those people. Those people might have children who get, the whole thing is something that I believe that all of us who are breeding dogs should be doing more to encourage people who are buying puppies from us to consider going, to little shows and training classes and that sort of thing that actually takes people that way into showing dogs. So instead of putting all those restrictions on them, I think it's a bad thing in a way.
Yeah, I discussed it quite a lot, this subject with many people, especially after we did. I made maybe 2 months ago a project called Project 25, and included I think 45 videos of people who were under 25 years of age, young dog people, enthusiastic. And I asked them, because in this show we always talk about there are no young people who are interested in dogs. There are no young people who are interested to learn. There are no young people who are interested to work. So I said, okay, let me try to find some young people, who will try to prove it, say it differently. And I mean, most of these videos were really amazing. But I spoke with some people later on, and out of these 45 videos, everybody was saying, oh, I want to become a famous judge. I would like to become a famous exhibitor, a professional handler. I would like to become groomer. I think one person said I would like to become breeder. And I think that's a big problem.
I think it probably is. I mean, breeding dogs is really hard work. But, equally, I think that it's so difficult for people to get a start. I think that I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult because I think people are not as sharing with what they've got as they were in the past. And I know that I've always thought to myself, we're the product of those that went before us. So, if I said these are my bloodlines, well, they're not my bloodlines. They're the bloodlines that we're working with that are the result of all the breeders over the past century that have worked. They've worked to produce something that we're custodians of during the period that we're working with them. I mean, it's difficult because sometimes people can be mean-spirited, and that can perhaps make you a little bit more difficult to deal with. But of course, there's lots of really fantastic people out there, and there's always going to be somebody who sort of spoils things a little bit and clouds your judgment for a while. But I do think it's important to get back to the point where there's something really gratifying as a breeder, breeding a dog that somebody makes up into a champion. That it's not, you don't try and keep it all for yourself. So
yeah, I agree. Well, talking about influence of people, let me ask all of our viewers also during the interview to share the interview on Facebook, and to make a screenshot or a photo of your screen and put it on Instagram. Tag me, I will share it later. More promotion we do on social media, because that's the place where most of the young people are today. Better it will be. So let's use also the power of social media, and let's share it. Let's use Instagram, Facebook, and all these places, because that's really where we can get some young people. I have obviously more questions from the last interview, but I'm going to read you a few, Michael, that we already got here now. Even if I said, please don't put too many questions now until we don't finish the ones from the last time, because I will lose them, because we have already 100 comments and they disappear, some of them. So wait, if you can wait a little bit with the questions until we finish these ones. Garrett Hicken is asking, what would be the best advice that Mike could give to a complete newbie in the showing world?
Well, the absolute best advice is this. It would be interesting to know what breed they were involved with, but you have to, the most important thing is to do a history and a research of the breed that you're interested in, on the premise that you know, we are the product of what, as I was saying before, we're the product of what's gone before. So we need to, number one, the old yearbooks, and you know, some of the breeds have got fantastic yearbooks. You can often get backdated copies from 20, 30 years ago. It gives you an idea of how the breed's progressing. It gives you an idea of bloodlines that you've perhaps never seen before, or dogs that you've never seen before. And then you can start to think about like pedigrees and how they've worked. You know, these dogs have worked in a pedigree. But if you can, then you need to find a successful breeder or exhibitor of that breed and try to get advice from them, because there is nothing like experience. And we were blessed with mentors. We were blessed. You know, Tom worked with Roger Stone of the famous Banatonia kennel, and you know, that was a kennel that's been, you know, it's been decades and decades of success in several breeds, particularly poodles and later Chinese crested. But and his memory, you know, I never got on terribly well with Roger, but there's no question of the fact he had a complete passion for dogs and showing dogs. His memory for all details that were important, as well as some fun facts and fun people that had been in the past. So these people are often very interesting, they're entertaining to a degree. But like Tom now tells me stories of poodles and things. You know, Tom's a lot younger than me, and yet he relates stories that Roger told him for people who were in poodles long before I was, and certainly in some occasions before Tom was probably born. So I think the impact of people's knowledge, shouldn't be underestimated. And if you can, and the problem is that sometimes you get people wanting to speak to you when you're about to go in the ring, when you're about to trim a dog, when you know, sometimes people's timing's not very good.
Yeah.
I think that if people can be subtle and approach somebody in a nice manner where they ask for help, I think most people will give help. You know, the timing needs to be good. But that's my biggest advice for sure, is they need, you know, the successful people who are still, and of course, there's some people who have been phenomenally. I mean, I think of Patsy Gilmore, Patsy Nicholas, you know, the Whippet breeder, extraordinaire. Patsy's like a fantastic. She's always at the Whippet ring, you know. Well, when we had dog show, she was always at the Whippet ring. Now, somebody was fortunate enough to go and you know, perhaps introduce themselves to Patsy and say, listen, I'm really interested in Whippet. That you know, do you think I could possibly sit with you for a couple of classes and watch the dogs, and you could perhaps, you know, I could ask your advice on stuff. Do you know something? She'd be thrilled to do that. She would be thrilled, because she doesn't show any longer, but she's still a great passion for Whippets. And that's the type of person that you should be looking for.
Yeah, I also think, and I must say that I think that many of the kennel clubs don't use the people that they have, and I think in many countries you have amazing people which has never been, let's say, used in a good way by their kennel clubs, you know, for these kind of things, for sharing their knowledge, for talking to young people and so on. I think you know, many people would absolutely love and agree to do that, but they have never been asked. So, you know, I think that
and you know something, Auntie, it's interesting because, of course, tragically Johnson died recently. But, you know, she was always that, you know, at the shows, if you could catch her at the Dane ring, or catch her at the, you know, the Mastiff ring, or, I mean, she's involved in a lot of breeds, but, you know, she was always happy to talk to you about the dogs and what was happening in the dogs in the ring. And I think there's lots of reasons. You know, there's Judith Gregory is a phenomenal breeder of border collies, and she's just the most open, giving of herself type of person. I absolutely adore her. And if, I know that if I was interested in border collies, that, I would think nothing could be better than to ask if it was possible to sit at the rings. Like I said, grandchildren, I think, show the dogs mostly for her now. She would just give you so much. In an afternoon, you could learn more from her about that breed than from any other sort. And they exist in every breed. They exist in every breed.
Exactly. Okay, we have a message from Chelsea Harrison. She says, when I was a child, you spent time with me when I came to your kennels with my godmother who has Shih Tzus. I asked for tips. You said to me, you are showing from the minute you walk into that ring. I have always remembered that and have always done well in my breed of Boston Terriers. Let me see. Martina is saying, hello from South Africa. Thank you for part 2. So excited. Yeah, my question. Do you have any thoughts on how we can make our sport more sustainable? Just feel like we may need to keep up with changes before we become a dying sport.
Well, I don't think the sport will die. I just think it will evolve in a different way. There's sadly some breeds. I mean, some breeds just go out of fashion, and I think anywhere in the world there are breeds that are evolving. French bulldogs. There's been a huge interest all over the world in the last 20 years on French bulldogs. Whippets maintain massive entries. Chihuahuas have gone. They were always popular, but they've become more. There's a lot of breeds that are on the crest of the wave as far as their numbers are concerned. Sadly, some breeds just fail to capture people's imagination. I think of Sealyhams. I mean, before I got involved with dogs, if you go back into dog annuals from the 60s, 60s, 50s and 60s, Sealyhams were a massive breed, like a massive breed. There's pages and pages and pages of Sealyhams and Sealyham breeders. And now they're probably a critical breed as far as numbers are concerned. They're probably on the critical list. And they're a smashing little breed. They're lovely. Now, you can't force people if there are quite a lot of work at Sealyham. They are, I had Sealyhams for a short while. They are a difficult breed to present, I think. And people nowadays, with their very busy lives, are probably more involved with breeds that don't have that level of work with them. And I don't think there's anything. The only thing you can possibly do is that the breed clubs have to do as much as they can to keep these breeds popular. And I think no matter what some of them do, I don't think it's possible. I just think they like anything, things go in and out of fashion. It's interesting that poodles, the numbers have decreased over the last few years, but there's a lot of youngsters. We're talking about how can we attract youngsters to the sport. There's a lot of youngsters in poodles, and I think that we're lucky that there's a lot. This whole the grooming thing is a big thing now. Grooming has changed and evolved, and we've got programs.
Yeah.
We've got a popular program in Britain at the moment on grooming as a grooming competition on the TV, and I think it's good for groomers because it explains how difficult. I think pet people don't realise how much work there is in grooming a pet dog, but also a lot of the groomers love trimming the poodles that come into their grooming parlours, and then that makes them want one. We get lots of, and they are. I mean, for us, if that's just one breed. The groomers are a great source of future exhibitors because if you can sort of steer them away a little bit from the grooming company and into the show world, that they're people who, poodles are quite difficult, but I mean, you've got people who are actually groomers, they're halfway there. We do get a lot of calls from younger people who are looking for poodles to show. So I just think that the breed clubs have got to have got to do their damnedest to try and attract people. And I think sometimes maybe having club shows that encompass more than just the show itself, but trying to get pet people coming with their pet poodles and having little pet competitions to give people the idea of, so if they go into something that's a very simple competition and win a prize, that you could hook people that way. Or I think we just got to think outside the box a little bit, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, there are a lot of questions coming, but I'm going to stop reading them now, these ones that are coming now, because I would really like first that we finish the ones from the last one, because otherwise I'm going to get completely lost. So let's finish first the ones from the last time, and then we continue with the ones that you're posting now. Lindsay Marshall is asking you, how many champions have you made up in total over those 21 breeds?
We're close to 150 British champions, that is. There's obviously been more champions around the world. It's funnily enough, I was talking to somebody about this, and I mean, obviously it's been gratifying that we've had this level of success, but as I've said before, it's always about a team effort. I absolutely couldn't have done it on my own. I mean, I've just, there are brilliant people around me, and there have been almost from the very beginning, so it's been a team effort, number one. And number two, I think that other people, I've kind of devoted my life to this, and when I could, when I look back, I was in advertising and I could keep a small number of dogs. If I'd stayed in that sort of comfort zone that I was in and stayed in advertising, then you wouldn't be having this interview with me now, because over the years I might have made up a handful of champions and have gone completely under the radar. The fact is, my life, the fact I changed my life because I wanted to do more with the dogs, placed me in a situation where I had the opportunity to have more dogs and obviously, not miss an opportunity. If I see something that I like, and that's one of the reasons I've had so many breeds, is because I can't resist a good dog. And if I see one and it's available and I can get it, then I think Tom lives in dread if there's dog shows on and I go off on my own in case I come back with something.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, Denise K was asking you regarding American Cockers. Do you think that those of us that work the breed should be penalized for showing their dogs cut down?
No, I think that, look, number one, an American Cocker that's in a sporting, we'll call it a sporting trim, because if you were working a dog, then it would be difficult to do that in full coat. Some of the lighter coated bitches could be worked in full coat because they've not got particularly heavy coats, and which again is one of those things that you shouldn't penalise when you're judging them. I do think it's essential, if you're going to show any breed that you're reducing the coat for whatever reason, the preparation is the same. So, for instance, if I showed Ambrose and I got the dog ticket under a famous American judge at one of our club shows, and he was cut down. I mean, I guess his coat and his legs was probably a couple of inches long, but the whole of his top coat was hand stripped and his head was hand stripped. So he looked like a show dog, exactly like a show dog, except the furnishings were cut shorter. So if I was judging, somebody came into the ring with something cut down and it had a clippered top or a scissored top coat, then I would penalise it very hard. And that said, when I judged Crofts, a veteran bitch was rewarded that had got a clippered top coat, and I just thought she was like 11 years old, and why not? I do think there are exceptions that prove the rule.
Yeah. Okay. Dom Santoriello was asking, are there any other breeds he would want to go into? But I think we have already answered to that. And then Helly Boynton was asking, please comment just a little bit more about poodle carriage. We were talking quite a lot about that.
Well, the thing with poodle carriage is that you can have the best. Somebody could place a dog in front of you. Yeah, we'll say a table dog. You could have a miniature put on the table, and you could go over it, and you could think that you'd found the best poodle you'd ever seen in your life. Perfect face, small, beautiful eyes, neck and short back, and the whole thing. If when you put them on the floor, they have no carriage, they cannot win. I mean, it's just so essential. It's like putting up a Shih Tzu with its tail down. You know, it's carriage in a poodle is vital. And so it's important that people don't think that to get the head up, that we don't string them up, because the carriage has to be natural. And when we're training puppies, one of the things that people can't help themselves with, particularly with standards for some reason, is that they pull the heads, you know, a dog that has, if you pull on the neck, the reaction is for them to pull down on the neck. So you're actually destroying the carriage. Them being in a loose lead next to you and wanting to just move at the side of you, looking up at you. I mean, you can encourage them with treats or toys or treats or what have you, but carriage is crucial in poodle.
Yeah. We had here Carolyn Price saying something, and I mean, we commented a little bit about this, but you can say a few more words about it. She said PR is the Kennel Club's weakest area. Perhaps the right PR company could protect and promote the pedigree dogs and breeders more efficiently. Is that something that we need, a good PR company, actually, you know, to help us with this issue of animal activists and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial. It's crucial because what we're doing is the point is, Antti, we did talk about this. These people who are part of these organizations like Peter, they are employing because they've got big donations from people who are like-minded, that believe that there should be no pets in the world, you know, and their target, we see the point is they target the show jumping or the horse racing or the dog shows because we're easy targets. But ultimately, they're after everybody with a pet. That's the long-term aim. So if we can say, oh, we're really passionate about this and we can defend ourselves, but we can't. We need a professional company who are advised by people who are passionate, like you or I, or lots of people like me. But the point is, we need professionalism when it comes down to being protected. We need to be protected. It's as simple as that. And we need to be protected with professional people.
Yeah. Karen Lowes was asking you, what is the last CC Mike himself won handling? That was a long time ago.
No, it is not a long time ago. It's not.
No, in that way. But I mean, we have not been on the.
I got Arabiata, who's Aloysius' sister. I won at least one of her tickets. I won one of Drama's tickets, the Russian toy bitch. Ella's only 4 years old, and Tom made her up because it was important that he made her up. He'd been told that he wasn't good at handling large dogs, and he's very good at handling large dogs. So anyway, he made her up. Then he let me take her on, but I won CC's and I won the World Show with her. There's that picture of me leaping into the air like
yeah.
So it's not that long ago. I intend to be in the ring again, so long as we can get in soon.
Yeah, let's see how that's going to work out. Aidan Burke is asking you, what was the best piece of advice Michael was given when starting out showing and breeding?
God, there's so much advice. Yeah, Lorna Island, who bred the Pyreneans, that was my first job. She was all about rearing. You know, she was like, that whole thing was about that you what you put in, what you get out. You know, so the vital rearing your puppet, you bitching well. You know, the puppies, the bitch while she's got her puppies, the puppies weaning them, the whole thing. So feeding, and then the Keto Johnson, Sue Johnson, and her mother Ellen, very famous Shih Tzu people. They were all about coat and coat care. But let me tell you, one of the most important things, and I can't actually remember, maybe it was just something that evolved from a few people. If you've got a coated breed, you can either, people consider feeding well, looking after the coat well, but the point is that no matter how difficult it is, these animals, all of them, these show dogs need freedom, because the one piece of advice I can give people, which, like I said, I'm not quite sure where it came from, I think it's just something that evolved, is that, you know, it's fine to spend a lot of time, you know, bathing and grooming and blow drying and God knows what, trimming the terrier breeds, the whole thing. It's fine, it's perfect to make sure that you're feeding them on really good quality food that suits them, the whole thing. But if you're conditioning the bodies and you're conditioning the care, you have to condition the mind. And the only way you can do that is they need lots of free exercise. They need to free run. And, you know, if you've got Afghans, you know I've had Afghans, they're not the easiest thing to let off the lead, because you can think, oh, right, okay, bye. No,
bye-bye.
But there's always somewhere, you know, nowadays in this country, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, a lot of people have started like renting out very cheaply, you know, fields that are completely enclosed for dog picking. And so no matter what, there is the option to do that. And it might, in this, you know, in the winter when it's, I mean, it's not so bad at the moment because it's bloody cold, and you know that's quite good for running dogs. But when it's wet, you know, when it's a bit warmer, but it's wet and muddy and God knows what, it is a trial. But you have to deal with it. You can't have them just sat doing nothing, because a show dog needs to feel good right the way through, the body and particularly the mind. And then you get something that looks, you know, they go in the ring, hey, look at me, I'm the bee's knees, just feel good about themselves.
Yeah. Amanda Orhan was asking you, and I think we have answered already that in the beginning of the interview, what toy breed that you have not yet owned would you like to have? You said that in the beginning. Billy Henderson was asking, please ask Mike, has he ever considered campaigning a Doberman? If not, why not?
Well, actually, he'd be horrified by my response to that, because actually, funny enough, I was asked to do one of these fantasy lineups for one of the interviews that I did with one of the papers, and a brown Doberman bitch that won the group at Westminster about 10 years ago, with a fantastic handler called Carissa. She's just an incredible. Her mother was a great handler, or is a great handler. I've got to be careful because she's still showing. But Carissa's like one of the most talented handlers I've ever seen, and she won the group. It was incredible, just incredible. It was a brown Doberman bitch. I would have killed to show her. And then actually, back then I could have done, but you know that. I would love to show, but it was that particular bitch. It was her, and I've seen one. But sadly, and you know, it's always a bit controversial. My love, you know, I could see myself one day having a Doberman, but it would be an American Doberman.
Cropped and docked.
Well, you know, they do look. I mean, I'm not too sure about how I feel about the cropping, but certainly, you know, they do look fantastic dogs. But you know, the British and the Europeans have done well with their dogs with tails. You know, they've got a good tail set now, and I think they look pretty good. But it isn't the crop and the dog that attracts me to American Dobermans. I love that elegance, those like real extreme crested necks. I just think, I love them. And I'm not saying I'm right before anybody starts trying to crucify me. I'm just saying I like them.
Okay. Debbie Pearson was asking you, and I think we have answered that in the last interview, but you can answer it again for her. What's the most favorite dog he's ever shown?
Well, obviously Riot, but, I have to say, Tom showed me a video, which I've seen 1 or 2 times, of Donny at Crufts when Ernie did the group and Peter Green was doing Best in Show. And it was just so emotional watching it. Donny was a great dog to show. I mean, they were so different from each other because Riot, the Afghan bitch, was like a precious, sensitive, sweet thing that showed her head off. But you had to put a part of you into her to make her have that confidence. She had to have a dad with her to be what she was. Whereas Donny, to a degree, I think you could have just handed him to anybody and he would have. But I mean, I look back and just think what a show dog he was. He was just incredible. So, but that wasn't. One was, I had more involvement with Riot being a show dog than Donny. Donny was, I just held the lead and ran fast. So
yeah, okay. Helen Davenport Willis was asking you, Mike, you told me once you did take a German Shepherd bitch to one of Uday Jenny's German stud males, but I don't think you got a litter. Was that the end of your interest in German Shepherds?
I did get a litter.
Okay.
I found up this guy, Uday Jani, I think his name is.
Uday Jani, yeah.
Yeah, with a dog called Enzo, who was a big deal. And I'd bought a German Shepherd bitch from a girl from Lancashire who had success with shepherds. And so I got my pet, more or less a pet bitch. I'd never thought about even showing her. She was just like a German Shepherd pet that we had. And I decided that if I was going to have a litter from her, I wanted to breed to the best. So I phoned up this guy out of the blue and said to him, "Hi, I've got a German Shepherd bitch, and I'm sure that you're going to turn me down because nobody's ever heard of me in German Shepherds, and it's my only bitch, and basically she's a pet, but she's quite nicely bred, and she's hip scored, and blah blah blah. And since I'm going to have a litter, I want to use the best dog I can. Can I use your dog?" And to my surprise, he said yes. And I had a litter, but the problem was by then we were getting involved with the poodles and the whole thing. So there was, I was never going to get carried away because I could never have gone to, with our dog shows in Britain the way it is, with working and pastoral mostly on one day and utility and toy and another, I could never have got to got into the ring with the German Shepherd. So it was my one and only litter, but I did use a really, really good dog. So
okay, let me see. Ivana Georgievich was asking you, I wonder, is there any difference between white and black poodle coats? I believe there is nothing better than a black coat, and I can tell a difference from my experience. Blacks are the winners in hair quality.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Not across all poodles, but I think there's enormous. The white poodles, cream white poodles that we have got very good coat textures, like extremely good coat textures. And I don't think we're unique. I think there's a lot of white poodles with those coats around the world. And I would say they are more often better textured than most good black coats. But then I think when you go down to my experience of miniatures is much less. But if we've had champion toys in white and black, and we've had, I think there's probably more good coated black toys, but equally there are very good coated, textured white toys too. So I think that I don't wholeheartedly agree with with that statement. I think
Okay.
that can be really good. And interestingly, we're breeding 1 or 2 apricot toys at the moment, and they can have a reputation for being quite soft coated, but we're getting, because there's some good black breeding behind that, we're getting apricots with fantastic coats, really thick, good textured coats. So it's I think just different lines.
Yeah. Adrian Barron is asking you, I think we have touched a little bit already this subject. When the virus is under control, what idea do you think would get more youngsters into the show world? I think we spoke already about that.
Really.
And then Lee Grogan was saying, what breed have you not owned but would like to own? And with this, we have already answered. Yvonne Bowles was asking you your opinion about line breeding.
Okay. Well, quite simply, I am always happy to do an outcross if I can find something that has the desired traits that I'm looking for. And I think that over the years that I've line bred, I look at if I'm getting involved with a new breed. I think we touched on this with the Petits. When we got involved with Petits, I did some research, and I think it was relatively easy to see where the qualities that I admired most were coming from. And so I set about line breeding to those two light litters that were repeats of one another. In the poodles, we line breed, but obviously we outcross and then we come back in. It's difficult. It's difficult because sometimes you lose things. You're trying to gain something by doing an outcross, but sometimes you can lose things. So it's frustrating sometimes that it can take a little while to get back on track, so to speak. But basically, I'm a firm believer in line breeding.
Okay. Let me see. We have also answered the question from Sandra Parle, who was giving the choice, what breeding working group would you like to handle or own? This you have answered. Kit Mullen was asking you, ask Mike if he bends the poodles.
If I what?
Bend the poodles.
Oh, band them. Yes. It's vital that you band them. Vital. There's a girl, a friend of ours, Liz Laff. She was here this week to have a standard bitch put into from puppy pants into continental. She's about the only person I know who can keep fantastic hair and not band. She bands the top, the ears and the top knob, but then the neck hair is left unbanded. She finds it difficult. Well, she doesn't need to band because she grows yards of hair. But most people, I don't know how she accomplishes that really, but most people, if they don't band them, they lose neck hair. And if you lose, you see, the outline of a poodle should be like a teardrop. So from underneath the neck, in profile, underneath the neck and going round the body, and then up to the top knot, should be an unbroken line. And if you've broken the neck hair and then you go round the front and underneath the body and then you go in and then you go out again, it spoils the whole illusion. So, and banding, let me tell you, I hate banding. And so it's easy for me to say everybody must band. You must band. But Tom and Jason do most of the banding. However, if they broke their hands, both of them at the same time, I would band the dog. And the point with it is, whilst one of the reasons I don't do it so much is because I say it's harder for me than them. If I did it for a month, I would be doing it well. It's just practice makes perfect. It's not a talent. Practice makes perfect with banding.
Yeah, like many things. Okay, we have been talking for 1 hour now, Mike, and we have managed to answer all the questions from the last interview. The last one was, and it was a lot of people who were asking the same question from Tony Pecola. Does Tim fill your glass with gin and gin? But it was this different drink last time that you had to the one that you have today.
Listen. This, and Tom's in the bath at the moment, so I'm shocked because last time he quietly changed my drink. Last time it was gin and tonic. This is like an old lady's drink. I'm drinking gin and fresh orange juice. Happy days. It's not orange juice.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I wanted to say one thing about line breeding just before we move on.
Okay.
The line breeding on having a really strong bitch line is really crucial. You can never underestimate having a really good, solid, strong bitch line. You know, and so sometimes when if people have got something that's not very good, a bitch that's not very good, and they want to use a good dog on that bitch, I'll sometimes say to them, well, you know, do this breeding, but then let's be really critical of the puppies. And if there's not something that's a marked improvement on your bitch, then we must consider, you know, selling the litter and then buying something new that's a new start. And, you know, getting the right foundation is really, really important. And the foundation should be from a really good bitch line. It's fantastic that, you know, you anticipate good males in a pedigree because there's people, you know, stud dogs are available to people, but you don't buy a potential show puppy from a very weak bitch line. It's not a good start. I'm not saying you can't go on from there, but I think you're at a disadvantage to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. There have been a lot of questions and comments, and obviously, as I told you before, as more comments and coming, I'm losing the ones from before. So if you asked any question and I didn't read them, and I don't read them now, it means that I lost them, and please put them back again. So I will try now. This is going to take some time, Mike, because I need to read all these things to find the questions for you. Cherry Hyton is asking, is Mike and Tom going to be doing a seminar of poodles after the lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen. Seminars from this household, there's myself and Tom and obviously Jason, and all of us have a role to play in that, because there's no getting away from the fact, you know, a seminar can take many routes, and of course you can cover. What's fantastic is to cover as many topics as you possibly can. With Tom, we've got the perfect groomer, you know, and he's very articulate, and he's quiet, is Tom, but he gets his point over very quietly and very nicely, and puts people at their ease. Jason, of course, is we're all good at grooming, but we've all got our different strengths. Jason, of course, is you know, like such an exceptional handler, and again, people can gain so much, you know, from him. I don't know what I do in the background, but anyway.
I just wanted to ask that.
But the thing is, you know, amongst us, we will do a seminar. I think I was thinking only recently that maybe if there's not going to be any general championship shows for a while, that maybe we should consider some sort of poodle extravaganza, and maybe having, you know, puppy walks. We could have cut down shows. We could have little seminars going on out. If we had picked something in the summer, Jason could be doing some handling classes outside. Tom could be, you know, doing, you know, I'm the one who normally puts puppy pants into Continental. You know, we could do something that was a lot of fun, really. I think we're all desperate for some sunshine and some fun. So, yeah, so watch this.
Okay. Mary Hughes is saying, I could cry about the last comment. I've been to too many American Cocker Nationals and watched the dogs in field trials come in and compete in best of breed the next day. A correct quote makes this possible. No cut downs. So I suppose this is a different opinion on cutting down the American Cockers.
Can you just repeat what that comment was?
Well, I lost it just now.
Right, but anyhow, what I think she was saying.
She was saying that, that she was looking dogs being competing in in field trials and then competing the day after. And if they have a correct coat, they can stay in the full coat, even if they are working. I think that was the point.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you work dogs consistently, you can't keep them in full. You can't keep a cocker in full coat to the floor and work consistently. You can work them occasionally and do that. And the point is that so long as they have a couple of inches of coat, you can tell the coat texture. It's simple as that. And furthermore, half of American cockers that are in full coat that are shown are often rewarded have got completely incorrect woolly coats. So I think that we don't penalise dogs in full coat with the incorrect coat. So why should we do something that was cut down?
Yeah. Vicky Farnman is asking you, out of all your champion dogs, any breed, pick a best in show and reserve best in show out of them.
Of all the dogs that we've had?
Yes, out of all your champions.
Well, I would give, I think I would be happy with Riot, Donny, and Arabella. There's one from each, one's from 3 breeds.
Okay.
Now, you could take a pick where you placed them. I'd be happy with it.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, there are some comments, but I will try to just concentrate on questions. Sonia Lawton is asking, what do you consider to be the biggest challenges for raising baby puppies up to 3 months? Is there any research you would like to see?
I'm not totally sure I get the question. For bringing on puppies after they're 3 months old?
No, it says, what do you consider to be the biggest challenges for raising baby puppies up to 3 months? Is there any research you would like to see? I'm not sure also what it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's difficult to do puppies after 3 months old. The thing that's made things a little bit more difficult is not having any shows, because we used to use the shows to socialise our young stock. So that's made things a little bit more difficult. And of course, we've got a lovely black standard bitch here, a daughter of Grace, that she's 13 or 14 months old. She's never been to a show, and I'm assuming that she's going to show, but who knows? But certainly, as far as rearing puppies from 3 months of age, it's plenty of outdoor. They've got to be outside as much as they can. Obviously, even this weather, at 3 months old, they're out for an hour while they're playing, and then we get them in. It's just maintaining a feeding regime. Whatever, I feed quite a lot of raw as well as complete. I mean, keeping the bodies on them is crucial, and making sure they have really high quality food is crucial for coat and skin and the whole thing. Exercise from 3 months of age, we start to build up the exercise as much as we possibly can. Again, off the lead is vital. Training, fun training. Don't make them go out of line. Stand them for a few seconds. Tell them they're good boys or good girls. If they're starting to irritate you, don't persevere. Just put them down and do it another day. I just think you've got to make bringing on puppies for the show, because at 3 months you've normally sold any pet puppies. Bringing on those puppies that you're running on for yourself is all about all of those things: freedom, exercise, fresh air, good food, good fun, lots of interaction, give them lots of kisses, the whole thing.
Yeah. Karen Lynn is saying, can you please ask Mike to talk a bit about American type English Springer Spaniels, because I know he likes them.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Right. No, this is the thing. It's like when in Rome. So I appreciate classical English type English Springers, and I've rewarded in groups. I've given groups to English Springers. Funnily enough, That anyway, the point is, in America, I like to watch. We forget when I used to go to Spaniel Club. I don't go so often now, but when I used to go to Spaniel Club, and there would be a huge entry of English Springers, and I've judged sweepstakes as well over there. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I've gone for probably something that's middle of the road American type, which is it's not quite so heavy boned, not quite so extreme. But they're beautiful dogs. They're beautiful. There's some bitches over the years. I've seen American bitches that if you change the colour of them and change the presentation, if somebody wasn't aware of where they'd come from, I think that they would have been received warmly by people who are into classical British type. But I believe that about the whole world of dogs. Where there's types in different countries, there's not just one type. It's like there's not one type of English Spring. I mean, when there was Cleeville and Hawkhill English Springers, they were quite different to one another. So in every country there are different types. And I think as we go forward and the gene pools are reduced, we've got the benefit of a breed and a breeding program and bloodlines that can open up. And even if, like for instance, if you were looking for a bigger side gate and you couldn't find it in this country, or just as an example, you might find that in America with a breed in America. So, and you might bring with it some attributes that you don't like, but the whole breeding is about bringing on the traits that you want and breed away from the traits that you don't want. So in principle, you could really, I mean, look, they bred corgis to boxers because they were trying to produce a bobbed boxer, a tailless boxer, which exists in corgis. And I don't know how many generations it took. It's just something that I know about. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that eventually they bred boxers that looked like boxers that had not too many generations before had corgis in the pedigree. In the same way that when Dalmatian breeders were trying to breed away from, I think, a health defect.
Yes. They were using the pointers.
Yeah. And there are people who get all like, oh, we mustn't have anything with this breeding in. Well, all of the breeds, if you go back far enough, are crossbreeds. So if somebody introduced something into a breed for a reason and then breeds back to the type, I think it's a good thing. I think the possibilities are endless. And if you're lucky enough to have a breed where you've got fresh bloodlines around the world, you should never close your mind to them.
Yeah, that's true. Ellie Graham is asking, where is the gym provider tonight?
He's in the bloody bath. In fact, I hope he hasn't drowned up there.
You see. Linda Cox is asking, what do you feel about the Kennel Club's coefficient table?
I don't pay much attention to the coefficient. I know, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. What I'm saying is, I know my own pedigrees, and I know that it's not wise to go too close. And so consequently, I line breed and then I do an outcross and so on and so forth. I think that if what you have to remember is, if you couldn't have a coefficient of inbreeding lower than a crossbreed. So, and we have a grooming parlour that has lots of cockapoos and lots of cabochons come in for grooming, and quite a lot of them have got bad skin and flipping patellas, and so consequently, if you start with two, it doesn't matter what, if you can start with two unrelated animals, completely unrelated animals, and do a breeding that's got the lowest possible coefficient of inbreeding, and have unhealthy puppies if the parents are unhealthy. And in the same way, not that I'm advocating it, but in principle, you could do the closest inbreeding And if there's nothing bad in those pedigrees, you will only get healthy puppies.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that because I think it's dangerous to go too close and exceed a huge coefficient. But what I'm saying is, it's all about breeding from healthy animals in the first place. And the other thing is that sometimes we are expected to breed only healthy animals. Now, it's my greatest desire as a breeder only to breed healthy animals. However, it's impossible. You can only do your best. You breed from healthy animals and you do your absolute best. However, there's always the potential for breed because there are no humans, no birds, there is nothing that is perfectly healthy. So, if you're doing your best then that's all you can do. I do sometimes see the trolls on Facebook who attack people as though they bred an unhealthy dog and like they did it on purpose, and I think to myself, my God, it's extraordinary people's behavior because, I mean, in principle, what could be more outcrossed than people? And yet we're all got our ailments and Christ knows what. So,
that's true.
We can only do our best, and we do our best. Yeah. And certainly crossbreeding is not a fix because there's plenty of healthy crossbreeds.
Yeah. Mary Hugh is saying or asking you, do you agree the quality of American Cocker Spaniels now seems better everywhere but in America? After 40-some years in the breed, there is virtually nothing I would like to own in the USA. We exported our best.
I do think that, again, I think what's happened is the popularity of the breed, which was huge, a few decades ago. And of course, you would go to Spaniel Club and it would be a feast. There'd be so many beautiful dogs, and dogs would be available because it was almost like there were so many good dogs over there that they would sell something nice because there was always something that that they could keep or what have you. So I do think they sold quite a lot of good dogs. There was also some kennels wiped out in the US as well as the rest of the world, when we encountered eye problems, which sadly exists within the breed. I do think there are still good dogs to be found in America. It's just, but they're not always, politically, there's strong handlers in the States that, sometimes I think, there might be something you could find something owner handled. There's good dogs in the States. They're just not always the most obvious ones, put it that way. And certainly there's good dogs to be found around Europe.
Yeah. Sue Wade is asking you, which one of your dogs do you think has had the most influence on their breed in the recent years?
Donnie, I think, really. I would have said at one point Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy didn't have many litters. That was his son. But I think Donnie, really. It's interesting that we can be around the world, in the States, a PCA or something like that, and I see something that I like, and the investigation, actually Donnie will be in the pedigree somewhere. I think he has been a big influence, and of course Donnie is sired by Pat Ashwell's Topaz dog that was the sire. He sired 3 Crufts Group winners, that dog. I mean, he was an influential sire himself, and the mother was bred by Donnie's mother was bred by Margaret Kendall. A beautiful champion bitch that I got, but I bred her father. So, I mean, it did go back to something that I'd produced myself, but it was with a lot of Topaz breeding. And as I've said before, I think that that Donnie's relationship with Harbovis Heaven Can Wait he went back to several times in his pedigree to is what gave us a lot of what Donny was all about. But I think that he's been the most influential, and he's been. I mean, every standard poodle we've ever had, other than one of the first bitches that I had, Winnie, one of my favourites. She was not a great showgirl. She was a good showgirl, but certainly since we started breeding properly, Donny's behind everything that we've shown. So.
Okay.
Yes.
Aileen McDonald was asking something that I think we have covered now with a little bit before. I'm all with line breeding, but what is Mike's views on the using the coefficient numbers for breeding, as this is being pushed more by some? So I think we have answered that. Debbie Pearson is asking you an interesting question. Which dog in his kennel excites him the most right now?
Well, we've got an apricot toy called Waffle that is just a gorgeous little thing. He's like 7 months old, and he's a beautiful little thing. He's lovely. We've got I think we bred Jason just before the lockdown brought out a new Sheltie puppy that she got the ticket in the large entry. Actually, Jason never handled it. Debbie handled it. She's beautiful. She's got English and American breeding, and she looks classical English type. So she's excited. But of course, there's been no shows. We've got a young standard poodle bitch that I'm high on, but I don't know whether she's. I look at her and think it could be fabulous. I don't even know whether she's going to show or not.
Yeah.
Like the first show we get to, I should be hysterical because I have no idea how she's going to behave. So, but anyway, that's the future.
Yeah, we also have.
The apricot toy is a hell of a thing. He's a cute button here. He's really good.
Okay. So that's something interesting for the future. Desmond Murphy.
He's out the bath.
Did he come back from the bath?
Yeah, he's out the bath. He didn't drown, although he just looked a bit wrinkly.
Okay, now you are safe. Unfortunately, my whatever gin provider, I don't drink gin, but Javier is still letting out the dogs. I have asked him to go to buy me one Red Bull, but it still didn't happen. Anyhow, Desi Murphy is asking you compare Ricky and Donny.
Ricky and Donny?
Yes.
Well, I think, you see, as a poodle goes, I don't think they got much better than Ricky. Just fabulous face, like a beautiful size and a gorgeous cat. There's just so many things about Ricky that was just really poodly, and poodle connoisseurs just went crazy for him. Donny was like a big ring dream. Well, they were both great show dogs, really. It's just that I think what it was, I think Donny had this bullish attitude to life. This, the thing with Donny was that when we ran him, I mean, I've never had a dog knock me over so many times, like crash into me. It was like he had no respect for anybody. I mean, particularly if you were watching the TV, and he would just stand on your face. Like, I've never known a dog ever do that. Dogs stand up, walk. They don't want to do that. But if he was walking and his foot fall out of your head, he'd stand on your head. The dog was special in my eyes because he was just such a great character. Ricky was a great poodle, and I'm not decrying either one of them. I'm very proud of them both, really proud of both. And to be honest with you, there were moments when Jason was showing Ricky that I was just in awe of. When there's photographs of him flying out in front with this big oversized gate and all this perfect carriage. So I'm really proud of both of them.
Lee Grogan is saying, "Hi, Mike. I know you have done really well with Japanese Chin in the past. Afterglow Mad Margaret Best Puppy in Show at the Chin Club show, and the lovely Frelly Ernest with Afterglow, to name but a few. Will you ever go back into the breed?"
Yeah, I like the breed. I do like the breed. I think they're beautiful. They're quite a difficult breed to breed, actually. And I didn't have great success. I had very moderate success. Ernest was beautiful, but he had a light eye. I think we would have made him up, but he was. When I got him, he didn't want to show. So we did do a really great thing with him, where we turned him into a show dog. And I think he's behind some of George Farmer's stuff now, because George had him and used him a couple of times. But I do like them. It's the type of thing that if I saw a dog that was gorgeous and said to somebody, can I have that? Can I show that? And they said, yeah, go ahead, and off you go. I would, but I wouldn't breed Japanese chinchillas, because I think I'd have to be a real enthusiast to go back to that, and where you can't stretch yourself too thinly. But if a great one dropped into my lap, I could never turn it down. That's for sure.
Okay. Let me just say to my viewers that, as I told you a few times already, the comments, as the new ones are coming, the old ones are going away. So sometimes I read one, and while Mike is answering, the next one just disappears. So if I didn't read your question, just post it back, please. But there are so many that that I think we will have a Valentine's Day together this evening. Okay, I lost few of them now, but the next one that I have is what's your from David Brett Williams? What's your best breeding advice other than starting on strong foundations?
Well, only that. Look, you could breed a litter. You could eagerly anticipate a litter and think that it was going to be fantastic, because the bitch was a good bitch, the dog was a good dog, the pedigree matched up, the whole thing. So you could get into your head that you were going to breed this litter, it was going to be remarkable. But sometimes they're not. So my advice is that try your best never to look at these dogs, these litters, with rose-coloured glasses. You're far better off looking at them very critically. And if you breed a litter that's a disappointment, it's not a reflection on doesn't make you a failure. It just means that something that you tried with the very best of intentions has not worked. And don't think that you must keep one, or maybe look and think, well, this doesn't work, but I'm going to keep that bitch because she's quite nicely constructed. She's got ugly head, or she's got this, whatever, but she's now got this pedigree that I wanted, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes the third pick of one litter is better than the pick of another litter. You can't just think that because in principle it should work, that it's going to work. And we've had some crushing blows, where I've genuinely been like doing cartwheels at the prospect of something, and then when we've had them, I've looked and thought, well, what the hell did I get myself all worked about this over? Because they're no bloody good. So, but you just have to get yourself into the mindset that you haven't failed, because you learn from those mistakes. You then have to think. That's another thing, is you've got to look at it and think, well, why didn't it work? What was it that we introduced that so learn. Everything's got a positive, even if it's a failure. You can turn it into a positive and work out, why it didn't work and why you shouldn't go down that route again. Interestingly, though, let me tell you just quickly, a girl in America called Bowers, got the first name. Bouquets, the prefix is. She had a litter. She did a mating that she thought was going to be fantastic. I'm not advocating this. I think it was extraordinary. But she had a litter that she believed in, and the whole litter was undershot. So it failed. And then she repeated the breeding, and the whole litter had perfect bites. Then it was repeated. Yeah. Now, that to me is bloody extraordinary. But it does show, that, how could that happen? But from that second litter, she bred a bitch called Bouquet Sitting Pretty, who I think she went at least winners bitch, if not best of winners, at Spaniel Club under one of the real greats, the Homesteads guy, I think. Jason had her from the woman who bought her, and she came to England in Whelk, and I mean, there was loads of really good, and there was never a bad mouth came from that bitch, never a bad mouth. So that's kind of an extraordinary story where I don't think I would have done that, but I mean, hats off to the Lisa Bowers, her name is. Hats off to her for believing in that pedigree so much that she did it again. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, if we think about humans, you know, same mother and same father, you know, are producing children one after another. They don't look the same, all of them. You know, if the first one is a pretty one, it doesn't mean that the second one will be the same and opposite. So probably it's the same with dogs. I'm not so sure how it works, but I would think it's like that.
no.
Claire Melville is asking you, when you are evaluating a litter, at what age do you choose your keepers, and what is the most important points you look for?
Normally around about 8 weeks. I'm looking at them long before that, but I don't make any critical decisions at that time. I mean, you can have a 6-week-old puppy that's a bit retarded, and you think, oh, that's got a weak character, so I'm not going to think about that one. And 2 weeks later, it can be like a big, confident, beautiful puppy. So, you know, don't be too harsh on. At 8 weeks, they should have good characters by then, but some are slower than others, you know, to come forward. The critical factors are on the lead, I think. I mean, it's you know, you need to look at them and like them. Obviously, the balance, the outline, the balance. There needs to be, you know, some faults can improve. Sometimes something that's a little bit short of neck can very often come on. Well, there are other faults. You know, if something's a little bit cow-ocked, that can improve dramatically. Short upper arm's a short upper arm. It's never going to change. You know, but once you've got a puppy that you like the balance and the harmony of, then you've got to watch them on the floor. It's, you know, really good handlers can sort of, and I think you've got to be careful of that as well, because you could sort of pull a puppy into the shape you want it to be, but that might not naturally be its shape. Yeah. You know, you just created something. Whereas you're better off really just plopping a puppy onto the table, just letting it drop, rather than, you know, trying to get it to be what you want it to be. And of course, on the floor, when it's just standing on the floor, that's what it is. So, and it, you know, at 8 weeks, you can normally get a puppy. In fact, somehow puppies can be better on the lead at 8 weeks than they are at, you know, 3 weeks later. But we've had puppies that we've moved up and down on the lead, and I think because they're a little bit insecure, they want to keep up with you. You know, they're a bit worried about 3 weeks later, that same puppy acts like it's never been on the lead before, and you think, oh Christ, what happened? But certainly, I think that evaluating puppies is at the point, normally around about 8 weeks old, when I think the characters is what it is, when the outline is liable to be something that even if it goes out of shape, it will come back to, but particularly that movement and carriage is crucial.
Yeah. David Webb is saying, what dog do you think is the best you have seen but not owned or handled, but you wish you did?
I think it comes back to that. You know, I did this fantasy lineup. I told you before. You know, there was this Brown Doberman, this Allure Blazing Star, I think her name was. Thought she was just incredible, right? Incredible. But it was kind of like the whole package. Carissa, the bitch, the performance of both. You know, they were just sensational together. It was magical. Putting on the Ritz is my favourite, you know, other than Riot, bless her. Her grandfather was Pallavi putting on the Ritz, who I saw at Westminster when he was like nearly 10 years old, and he was just shattering, like earth shattering when he walked into the ring, and like shook up his black mask old dog, big, you know, like big impressive dog, shook and just looked at the lesser mortals that stood around him. That was a moment I'll never forget. Just like incredible. Scarf Michael, the Kerry Blue, extraordinary dog. Just, I mean, just adored in this country and adored in America. Just everybody loved the dog.
Yeah.
Hazelnut, she was before my time, but I've seen all the videos of her. You know, she's got a place in my heart because of Leslie, who's been such a great mentor to us in toy poodles. And to be honest with you, and it's not because it's Tom, but you know, and we weren't actually on particularly good terms at the time when Tom was showing his Chinese crested Nora, Vanatonia Unwrapped. You know, because there'd been a bit of animosity between the Vanatonia kennel and the Afterglow kennel, I would love to have said something. I would have loved to look at it and say, well, look, she's got this or whatever. But in actual fact, she was just bloody sensational. I used to look at it and think, God, I wish that was mine. She was fantastic. And again, it was another one of those things, a bit like Carissa and the Doberman bitch, that they were just like one unit. And I think actually, when I looked my lineup, my little fantasy lineup of all these group winners, I think that is the thing that it wasn't just the dog, it was that relationship between the dog and the handler that made like something extraordinary. And so there hasn't been one, there's been a few. So
okay. Matthew Oddy is asking, what is the best pointer Mike has seen or judged, not owned or bred by him?
Oh, right. Oh, well, I'm glad he said that at the end, because I would have obviously said Faith. To be honest with you, Jacobite. Oh, God, why can't? Adstock, Jacobite. I got Higgins, who was Face's father, from, what was her name? Anyway, that's McDougall, Donna McDougall. Donna McDougall was a little bit like me. She was a bit Marmite, lover or hater. She was certainly somebody who had a strong mind and was not frightened to give you her opinion. I thought she was a great breeder. I thought she was incredible when she was talking about pointers. I went to a seminar, a judge's course on pointers, which she delivered. It was the best seminar I'd ever been to. She was inspiring when she talked about pointers. She bred a dog called Adstone Jacobite, a black and white dog. And I will never forget showing Douglas Fashion, who was #1 all breeds, a black and tan American cock. And he was a lovely dog, beautifully constructed, sound dog, a difficult dog to fold. But every single time I went into the group and Jacobite was in it, I always thought that he would beat me, and he never did. And, you know, that's sometimes, and I don't think I was wrong, actually. I think that he was as good as the dog I was showing. And I think I'm glad I wasn't, because he wouldn't have been #1 all breeds, but I think I probably should have been at least beaten a couple of times by him. He was an incredible dog, Jacobite. Gorgeous, long, you know, I don't like these short four faces in pointers. I want, you know, this like beautiful, long, strong four faces and, you know, those convergent head planes. And he was a big, powerful dog with big movement, big, like sporting movement, no lip, low to the ground. Fantastic dog, incredible. So that's him.
Okay. I asked Andrew to send me a question by private message because I saw that he posted and it looked interesting, but while you were answering, I lost it. And he asked, why is it that so many poodles, particularly in the smaller sizes, are terribly lacking in body? Are they really that difficult to get condition on? Many judges are often horrified when they get their hands underneath a beautifully tailored coat.
There's no excuse, in my opinion. No excuse whatsoever. I mean, classical British toy poodles have big bodies. It's as simple as that. Now, and we've had lines from all over the world. We've got, in our toy poodles, we have American, Japanese, There's Australian now through the Montez dog. Plenty of Scandinavian breeding, Italian breeding, and we don't have anything that's not got a good body. Some are slower than others, as they're developing. Some of them start off a little bit slimmer than you would like, but nothing. And I find that with the toys particularly, feeding raw, they like it, and of course it's really high fat and what have you. We give them raw lamb and raw tripe, and we get good bodies. And I have obviously I judge all poodles, and I have felt those little hat rack things, and I can't stand them. So they shouldn't be rewarded. To be honest with you, it's not acceptable. They're not in show condition. So why would you reward them?
Yeah. Pippa Moore's asking you: is there anything in dogs that you would still like to achieve?
I'd like to go best in show at Crofts.
Okay. Yeah, that would be nice.
No, I mean,
that would be nice.
Joking, but listen, I'm not being funny. We've been blessed, but it doesn't alter the fact that it's such an iconic thing that you still sort of dream that you never know. It's a bit like winning the lottery, isn't it? Maybe if you win it, you still perhaps have another flutter.
Okay, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Would you prefer to win best in show or to judge best in show at Crafts?
Oh, I would prefer to go best in show at Crofts.
Okay.
And since unless I'm out of fashion a bit at the moment, so for the moment I can't imagine that best in show appointment it will always elude me. But anyway, you never know. Fashion change. I might come back in fashion. But actually, going back, listen. Let me tell you something. We've had quite a few best of breeds at Westminster. Westminster's bloody, for those people who've not been, and people criticise and say, oh, it's only, it's not got the entry and there's so many dogs in the breed entries and the whole thing. Those groups and best in shows are so bloody exciting. I think if I got to the point where we had a dog that was competing for best in show Westminster, I think I'd have to have Valiant before I went, because I think I'd be just. Because it is I get myself into a right old state. I get myself into a right old state just watching. Never mind if I had a dog competing for best in show. So I think that would be a dream come true.
Yeah. Colin Beatty is asking you: does Mike feel that American cockers worldwide are on the big side? Often, when judging Group 8, the cocker is smaller. Is this a problem?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the problem is I'm probably as guilty of occasionally putting up a bigger dog. Look, they should be the smallest spaniel, but they should be a sporting dog. So, given a choice between something that's toyish and in size, with little teeth and a little beak and no movement, and something that has got an easy movement, a big side gate, big teeth, one of those really lovely plush heads and what have you, I would put something up that was bigger than ideal. I mean, obviously, I want to find the ideal in the correct size. But what I'm saying is, given the choice of if I had two, and one was inside and was that toyish, or one that was too big, I would go with the big one. And I know, okay. And in America, they should be disqualified, of course, if they're oversized. I always play dumb. I'd say, "Oh, do you think it's too big?" So,
okay.
Let me just tell you this. I've got to tell you this because it's a funny story. So I was judging a specialty show in the States, and the bitches were bloody awful. They were like tiny little sparrows. They were just bloody awful. And then into open bitch came this big black and tan bitch. She was bloody huge, absolutely huge. And I was like, oh Christ, what can I do? It's huge. And it powered around the ring. It was fabulous top line and tail set, big side gate, really straight silky coat. It was a bloody lovely thing. But it was big for a dog, never mind a bitch. Anyway, and of course you should disqualify them if they're oversized in the States. It's a big serious thing. Anyway, I thought, oh, sod it. So anyway, I gave it winner's bid. Afterwards, a famous exhibitor, I won't say it is, marched into the ring and started to bloody absolutely lambaste me. That was the size of a horse, that bloody bitch that you put up, and blah blah blah. And all I kept saying to her was, "Do you really think it was big? Do you really think it was big? Do you really?" And actually, it was because I just thought, I'm not admitting to this. There's no way I'm admitting. She was bloody huge. Anyway, I didn't regret doing it. Well, there you go. It is what it is. So.
Okay. Sarah Lokes is asking you, if you hadn't started in dogs and gone on to great things, what other species would you have liked to have bred and shown?
I think if I was blessed from a moneyed background, I think that that whole thing with horses is. I think that at its highest level, people who show horses are blessed, aren't they? And when you see, I've never been to it, but when you see some of these horse shows in the States, these trotters, or God knows whatever they're called, these ones that these are. I look and think, Christ Almighty, they're amazing, but of course there were bloody hundreds of thousands. I mean, big mortals like us could never do that. But I guess it wouldn't, put it this way, probably wouldn't be bunnies. It would be something that was a bit more dramatic than that, I think.
Yeah. Hugh Wade is asking you, would Mike ever have time to write a book?
No.
No. Okay.
I won't have that.
Okay, let me see now. Okay, let me see, because there are a lot of Senja Makinen is asking you, curious, I remember you were interested in Lagotos already 20 years ago. Why you don't have already one until these days?
Just, the interesting thing is, I mean, I remember that funnily enough, we were talking about this tonight, that Thomas, I think, showed one, when he was with Mia, he had one that was a big deal. I can't remember, what was it called, Dante? Can you remember?
I will remember. Give me a little bit of time.
I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, but I think that is about 20 years ago, and I think that was the dog that made me look at the breed and think, oh God, I'd love one of those. The problem
it was I think the Lefarni kennel, but I don't remember the name of the dog. But it will come to me, because that was the time when I was working for Mia and Thomas when we had him.
Oh right, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was the dog that put the breed on the map a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's
certainly for people who've never seen the breed before, like myself. And I think that it's basically, I've not been around. The breed was never. I mean, there's a few more in this country now, but if I was at a world show, it was not a breed that I was running into or knew anybody who bred them really. And the breed in England they were nice enough, but there wasn't anything that was like, oh my God, look at this is incredible. So I guess they just, I just haven't been in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, I probably would have one, I'm
sure. Lee Stadholm Kalismar is asking you, do you think dwarf poodles should be brought to the UK?
The what?
Dwarf poodles. Because you have 3 sizes in the UK, right. And we have 4 in the FCI.
Well, the only thing I would say is this, that I wouldn't be against dwarfs being in the States. It would in the UK. It wouldn't be something that would. The thing is, I think that we have a sufficient, to keep the breed in good shape in this country, we need sufficient breeders and exhibitors. And I think if we had a 4th variety, we wouldn't gain extra people, I don't think so much. I think we'd probably just dilute the people we've got. So some toy people might go into dwarfs and some miniature people might go into dwarfs, but I don't think we'd gain more exhibitors as a result of it. So for that reason, I don't really have any strong opinions. I do like dwarfs. I mean, I have to say that I've judged some really good ones, and of course we've now got some dwarf breeding in our toys through the Scandinavian ones, which I think has been helpful. I certainly think that it's been beneficial, if you've bred a miniature that's gorgeous but it's too small, or a medium, I should say, and if you've bred a toy that's gorgeous and it's too big, the fact that the Europeans could benefit from those animals by having both sides, I think has been good, really, because otherwise you might have lost important dogs. And I think behind some of the really great winning toys in Europe now, there's quite a bit of dwarf breeding. So I think it's been of benefit in Europe for sure. So, yeah. But that doesn't really answer the question. I'm kind of indifferent to whether if they come, that's nice, and if they don't come, then I can.
Not a big deal. Yeah. Okay. I still have a lot of comments which I didn't read, and I think that now maybe is the time to say to stop posting more questions, because we will not manage to answer them all, because I see that I have 137 comments I still didn't read. So I think we have plenty of questions still left to answer, and we will not be able to answer if you post too many. Anyhow, Vera Andra is saying, I have a lovely Newfoundland litter. Would Mike like to get one puppy?
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Again, we've had a little bit of involvement through our friend Tina. I've shown them a couple of times, and Jason showed for Tina, a lovely girl from London. We had some quite a bit of stuff from that famous kennel in Switzerland. They're a lovely breed, but no, working day's too difficult for me.
Yeah. Ellie Graham is asking you, why did you give up with the Cavaliers?
I didn't feel that I was. Look, I bred one or two quite decent ones, quite nice ones. I possibly didn't feel as though I was progressing to what I wanted, and so the thing is, if you're doing something at the same time, and you're excelling in one thing, and another thing you don't feel that you're getting quite where you want to be, then it's difficult. It's all too easy to concentrate on where that's going so well. And I think we had the Cavaliers. I can't remember how long we've had it. I think we had the Cavaliers when we were just getting into toy poodles, and I like them, and I think I bred the mother of a champion. I didn't breed a champion, but I bred the mother of a champion. I bred a nice little bitch that did a little bit of winning, but there were. That's the reason, really. I didn't feel. I didn't feel as though I was excelling.
Yeah. John Graham is asking you, what is the moment or experience in your life in dogs you treasure most?
I think, actually, I think there's a moment. I mean, there's been so many moments, but look, I showed, again, I don't like to harp on too much about one particular dog, but I showed Riot for the last time when she was nearly 12 years old. I think I mentioned this. She nearly got the bloody ticket. She got the reserve ticket, and I cried like a bloody baby, because I knew that it was the last time she could ever look as good as she looked that day, and she was slowing up a little bit, but she still looked fantastic, and it was just a perfect, beautiful moment, because the ringside she was just like some old bloody legend, Hollywood legend who came out. Yeah. Everybody still loved her, and I loved the fact that everybody still loved her, just because I loved her so much. It was kind of important to me that everybody loved her. So I think if I don't think about the big wins, the big exciting wins, if I just think about a special, gorgeous moment, I think it was the last time I showed Riot.
Yeah. Francis Crowley is saying, ask Mike what is his opinion on having a champion class at UK shows.
Right. Well, funny enough, this is being well talked about at the moment. Look, I'm not totally for a champions class. What I do think is that because I think one of the problems with the champion class is that we could have judges who were not who were perhaps a little bit insecure about their capabilities, who might only ever take from a champions class, when in actual fact, I think one of the joys of bringing out a youngster is going in thinking, right, this is fabulous, I'm going to bloody, and so I think the fact that you're highlighting the fact that these animals have won, whereas a junior might have beaten the previous 3 shows, you might have beaten all the champions, but it's still under a judge that's perhaps insecure. That's not in the champions class; it's only a junior. So I think there could be a disadvantage to other class winners in the challenge. I do think that we've talked about this. These reserve tickets that never count for anything, and the judges plainly write on that reserve CC that this reserve challenge certificate, that this dog is clearly of the quality to be called a champion. So for these to count for nothing, unless by chance, it doesn't happen very often that a dog gets disqualified, so that then the reserve CC becomes a CC. So they need to change. That needs to change. We need to have, I think, 3 reserve CC should count for a ticket. And when dogs are kept out longer than they should be, really, but they get on a roll. I mean, I've always thought if you have one great year with a dog, then you should thank your lucky stars and quit. But I mean, there's a thing now where it seems like number 1 dog, all breeds, seems to go on and get shown, the next year and the year after, and God knows what. And I think that often they could perhaps win on reputation. And I think that there's good dogs that perhaps don't get made up because in our country, we compete. All dogs compete together for the CC. It doesn't matter whether one's got 50; they still can get the 51st or the 52nd or the 50th.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm always about bringing out a new one. Really, I mean, if we have a great year, I think to myself, well, thank you very much, and it's all about getting a new one out. And I certainly think if you've been number 1 or breed, that you should quit. Then I don't think it's right, really. Bring them out of Crufts, happy days, bring them out of Crufts.
Yeah.
But showing them year after year after year, it demoralises people in a breed. So I think that if reserve tickets counted, then I think it would be very helpful where a dog gets on.
Yeah, this is more or less what we have, let's say, in the FCI. If the dog gets the reserve Cassib and the dog that got Cassib is already the international champion, then this reserves counts as the Cassib. So,
and it's interesting, Ante, I did a little bit of research on it about 15 years ago, because that's something that I brought up then, that they should count. And at the time, I was in kennel club meetings about doing things that might, like increase people's interest in the breed and continue to show dogs. And I felt that was really important. What was interesting is I took 3 breeds that I knew well and did an analysis of them over a 3-year period to see, because there's always this talk, it's going to cheapen champions. It's, there'll be too many champions, going to cheapen champions. Well, in those 3 breeds that I thought were from 3 different groups, over a 3-year period, it only gave like 2 or 3 new champions.
Yeah.
But that would be sufficient to hold people's interest, whereas if you've got a good dog that should be a champion and you cannot make that dog up because there's another dog, it might be a better champion, that you can't get past it. Those are the sort of people we lose, and if we lose them, we can't get them back. I think it's
That's true.
And I've seen a lot of dogs. I've seen a lot of dogs that are not well owned. And when I say that, I don't mean that they're bad. People treat them badly or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, you'll get somebody new who's perhaps not proficient as a handler, who's perhaps not the best presenter in the world because they're new, And I've seen dogs that really I've looked at and thought that should be a champion, because as a judge, from a judge's perspective, when I'm judging, I think the best thing is to have a beautiful dog, beautifully handled, that's beautifully presented. However, if the best dog is not beautifully handled and is not beautifully presented, I mean, provided it's clean and not matted, if my hands tell me that this is the best dog, even if the ringside think, God, he's lost his mind, then I put that dog up, because I'm not judging a grooming competition and I'm not judging a handling class. So.
Yeah. That's true. Wally Harris is asking you, what do you think dog shows will be like in about 10 years?
Well, I think that, as I said before, I think that there'll be some changes with breeds becoming more popular, and some breeds that are popular, reducing in their entries. I think that some of these notions that you hear about in Europe that are extraordinary. I mean, we had a lady come on last time who said that in Austria they couldn't shave faces. What sort of crap is that? I mean, I've never heard such. We're dog lovers. To suggest that shaving a dog's face, like a Cocker Spaniel, an American Cocker Spaniel or a Poodle, is detrimental to that dog. I've never heard anything like it in my entire life, because I know I've had 40 years of experience of breeding dogs, and I know that it has no bearing. So God help us if lunacy like that spreads around Europe. I hear of places that you can't take a brush into the ring. Well, why? Are they frightened that they're going to beat the dog with the brush, or are we suggesting that brushing your hair, or your mother brushing her hair, is something cruel? Brushing your children's hair, is that cruel? Brushing a dog's hair, what is that? What rubbish is that? And why have we actually reached a point where anybody's taking that seriously? I mean, it's extraordinary. And that's, so I hope that farcical rubbish like that doesn't take a hold and spread around, because that's crazy people. And we've just seen in one of the biggest countries in the world where crazy people can have such an influence.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Stay away from the crazy people.
Yeah. David Bell is asking, do you agree that judging puppies is difficult? When judging puppy classes, are you looking for the puppy that shows the most potential, the puppy that looks more like the finished article, or the puppy that is at the correct stage of development for its age?
Well, I think that you can't. That's just slightly. You can't. You've got to be careful you don't make a sweeping statement here, because you could have a 6-month-old Chihuahua that looked like it could win a ticket instant. I've seen many Chihuahuas, 6, 7, 8-month-old Chihuahuas, that have been able to win tickets at that age and have gone on. They haven't gone off as they've got older. Equally, so I think that some of the toy breeds can be fully developed as baby puppies. Then when you take the bigger breeds, David's an Irish setter man. You wouldn't expect a 7, 8-month-old Irish setter to look like the finished article. I think that if I'm judging them, if I'm not judging what I imagine will happen. So if I see an Irish setter puppy that's rear was 2 inches higher than its withers, I would penalise it for that. There's a possibility that it could settle with time and the whole thing could end up lovely. But I can't see the future.
Yeah.
So when I'm judging, it's all about finding the one which I think has the most potential, really. And I think that you've got to consider the whole animal with that, where that's concerned. Yeah. But certainly, I think you should be very, very wary of rewarding slow maturing breeds when they're very young. It's fine with some breeds, but I certainly think that that like an Irish setter puppy, I mean, I don't think they're a breed that you can throw high awards to. I think they've got to mature slowly as they.
Yeah. David Brett Williams is asking you, what's your favorite type of line breeding?
I think that grandfather to granddaughter breeding can be fantastic, and I think that half brother to half sister breeding can be great, providing there are total outcrosses. So you're bringing together a half brother and half sister, but with two totally different outcrosses from each other and from the so that you've it's like a 50% outcross anyway through the outcross that you've got in pedigree.
Pippa Moore is asking you, ask Mike what he thinks about CNRs being registered by the Kennel Club in various breeds.
Say that again.
Ask Mike what he thinks about, and then it's 3 letters. I don't know what does it mean. CNRs being registered by the Kennel Club in various breeds. I don't know what is this CNR. I don't know what it is. Well, we asked them to explain because I also don't.
What that is. And then maybe
Sarah is asking you, do you have dogs living with you in the house?
Yes, I have 2 litter sisters, standard poodles. I have Electra's mother and her sister. They're called Kinky and Tyra. In fact, I've just bathed and trimmed them today. They look marvellous. Bless them.
We have a question from Athens. Andrew is sending me a private message. Color not recognized.
Yes, color not recognized. Right. Now then, just tell me the question again.
Let me find it now. Also, Andrew just sent me a message to explain. So it was ask Mike what he thinks about color not recognized being registered by the Kennel Club in various breeds.
Oh, I see. Just hold on, Tom. I need a battery for the phone, a charger for the phone. He'll get it. Look, the problem is, and I kind of really sympathise. I think this is a big problem, particularly in Frenchies. Now, there are some breeds, like poodles, where with party colour poodles being registered, I think it's perfectly fine, because the colour has always been a poodle colour. It's not a colour that's required in the standard. We don't, we want whole colour poodles. But for party colour poodles to be registered, I think is perfectly correct, because the colour has existed from the beginning of the breed. In the same way, white boxers, you can't show a white boxer, but they are a boxer colour. It's as simple as that. They are part of that breed. In Frenchies and some other, 1 or 2 other breeds, pugs, are full of colours. They make your hair curl, the colours that they come up with. Now, the problem is that some of these colours have never existed in these breeds, ever from the very beginning. Oh, thanks, Scott. I need to plug this one up. It's anyway. I'm just wondering. Anyway, and so consequently, for these colours never to have, like sable English cockers and American cockers, sable. I like that colour. There are pictures of sable cockers from the time of Ware, going back to the 30s. Thank you. And I need an extension as well. I'm sorry, because it won't read. Unplug the puppy's bed. Sorry about that. Anyway,
no problem.
But the point is, where there are colours that have never existed within a breed, I think it was wrong that we should ever have registered them. Merle French bulldogs. That is not ever been a French bulldog colour. So that something has been put into them to create that colour. Well, I'm sorry, that means that puts a question mark on the whole of those pedigrees.
Yeah.
So and I think there's a very subtle difference between the colours that have always existed, which I think rightly should be registered, and the colours that have never been seen before. Thank you, Lord. And in which case, I think that we should have probably had we should have taken a much stronger attitude with that. But I don't know what you could do about it now, because there's thousands of French bulldogs now being registered of these not recognised colours, and I don't see how we can go back. I don't actually understand what they could do about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
I really sympathise with because I do know that, like, people who breed like I mean, what's more beautiful than a lovely brindle Frenchie? And you know, people, when you hear that people struggle to sell them because people want bloody lavender or merle or Christ knows what, it's just, I mean, it's distressing.
Yeah. Anyhow, before we continue, and you know, we were thinking that it's not going to be so many questions and so many people tonight, Mike. But obviously, as we discussed before, we might be old and out of fashion at some point. But still, obviously, there are some people who wants to hear what we have to say. So that's also nice in one way. Beltran, he lives in Spain, and they have a curfew there. And he must walk his dog before 11, otherwise he will have to pay to the police. So just leave it on, everything, Beltran. I'm sure everything will be okay. Go and walk Monette, because we don't want that you pay any extra money for having problems with the police because of talking dogs with Ante. Just leave it all on. Anyhow, we have a question from Athens. How would you describe poodles in one word?
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Okay. This is an interesting question. Which I just lost, from Letamar. Can you please send it again? Because, of course, new comments are coming in, and I lost it. Let me see. I lost again some questions. Let me see. What was your experience in breeding pointers, and why you didn't continue? Is asking you Christina Pilatus.
Right. Well, here's the thing. What I did, I've just plugged that in. Sorry about that.
No problem.
To make sure that I didn't suddenly go blank. I'm just trying to.
Especially because now Beltran is out, and we are only you and me with all the technology. So
anyway, let me just hang that behind there, and I think. Can you still see me?
We can still see you.
Right. Good.
You can just put it maybe a little bit down.
Okay, let me just see if I can. The problem is.
Okay, that will be perfect. That will be okay.
Good. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Pointers. Right. What it was with
pointers. Or not. Wait.
Yeah.
But let me see, just because Facebook is a little bit delayed. So just let me see if we will get Beltran. Okay, Beltran will fix it. He's still here. Beltran is still with us. Okay. He will see. Okay, now you are with us again. Perfect.
Right. Good.
Okay.
The pointer thing.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes. Yeah. Here.
Right. Sorry about that. It's broken off. Anyway. Right, so the point is, sorry, we were having technical problems our end as well.
Yeah, I can realize.
Yeah, it's okay. So the pointed thing, what happened was, I had Higgins from Donna McDougall, who was a beautiful dog, a really, really beautiful dog, and it was just that he'd gone back to Donna, in fact, to Ted, her ex-husband, he went back to, because he worked the pointers. And it was only some years later that I was in America, and anyway, I decided that it was a shame, because Donna had finished in pointers, and Ted didn't show he worked the dogs. And I thought to myself, that dog's probably just going to be forgotten about. And so consequently, I borrowed very kindly, the Wilbergs lent me a very good bitch, and I was able to breed the litter, but there was never an intention to be a pointer breeder. So I bred that litter. I was so proud of Face, the dog that we bred from in that litter. I think he's an astounding dog, to be honest with you. He looks fine. He's like 10 years old now. Still looks fantastic. He's a beautiful dog. So I mean, and we've got his semen stored now, and one or two people have used him. So it was good to do that. It was a success, albeit a short-term success.
Okay, and why you didn't continue with the pointers?
Not only that, there was a specific reason for doing it. It wasn't because I wanted to become a pointer breeder. I mean, it just literally was done. I wanted to not lose Higgins from the gene pool, because then there was you see, if Donna had stayed in pointers, then it wouldn't have been of concern, because Donna would have used him and he would have. So that was the reasoning behind it was not from a breeder's perspective. It was just a preservation of something that I thought was important, those bloodlines.
Okay. Karen Loss is asking you, how do you decide who can own an afterglow? And that was a similar question from another viewer that I lost, but I think she will ask it again. But it was very similar to this.
I listen. Lots of people own afterglows, and I think if I think they're going to be lovely with the dogs, I mean, it is really crucial to me. Look, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm still a dog lover, and I'm really happy to see my puppies go, but I'm only happy to see them go if I know they're going to be, treated with the care and attention and love that they deserve. So that's it. It's basically the people who own an afterglow. I try always to make sure that they're the people that are going to love that, the dogs that they get.
Wait, now I lost my earphone. Let me see. Do you hear me now, or you don't hear me?
I can hear you.
Let me. Wait. How can I solve this? Okay, let me see if I have managed now. Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, because my earphones got without battery. We are speaking too long, so I had to move it on a normal sound until they charge a little bit. Kita normal standards.
So I said that again, Auntie.
Can you tell us a little bit about your future plans in standard poodles?
Yeah, well, I had a great disappointment. In that I brought a dog that I'd admired for a number of years, and I brought him over last summer. And I brought him over too late, and I bred 3 bitches to him and we got no puppies. It was nobody's fault. It was just the timing. He's an older dog now, and it just didn't work. So then I was determined that we must incorporate this dog somehow. So again, Olga, famous boot breeder, Smart Connection, she owned the dog. He was bred by Kate in the States, a Kalen's dog. Bruce, lovely dog. In fact, a wonderful dog. When he came and stayed with us, he was here with us for about 3 months, and we all fell in love with him. He was a great dog. But anyway, we've located a really well-bred son out of a fabulous bitch that Olga bred, Maxima, very famous black bitch. Anyway, the combination of those two bred together as I've rewarded in the ring myself a bitch in this country that was top bitch. But there's a brother in Russia, and then our dear friends Tony and Henna are doing a good job in Finland, and they have a Tyrone Power daughter that's beautiful. and her sister. So we've made arrangements for one and hopefully both of those bitches to be bred to the Russian dog later this year. So that hopefully will get me what I was hoping to achieve in the summer. And then we work really closely again with a really, she's like my sister, bless her, Maud. And Maud's in Oslo. She co-owns Tyrone Power, and she co-owns Papa Don't Preach, and she also co-owns a bitch. And of course, Tyrone Power was by her wonderful Noah, the Daywins, not Daywins, Halifax de Havilland dog, bred by Kiki. We're all part of this wonderful family, really, around Europe and Scandinavia. But anyway, Maud has semen ready. The last sugar daddy semen in the world is sitting with a brilliant reproductive vet called Ragnar in Oslo. He already successfully gave us a litter from a dog that was born 37 years ago, a dog called Daywin Bounty Hunter, the litter brother of really famous Daywin dogs. And you know, those old Daywin dogs were so fantastic in Canada. So we've got a uniquely bred bitch. It's very beautiful, bitch called Paris is Burning with Maud, primed, waiting for her to come in season. The sugar daddy semen, the last sugar daddy semen in the world, is there waiting. And so it will be one of those times where I will be hysterical because we're doing that. We've got the best repro man. We've got everything. We've got a beautiful bitch. We've got the semen. Everything's there. And all that can happen now is it could fail. But you know, we're praying.
Let's hope not.
So, you know, we've got some and you know, there's some exciting things happening here too. So I think I'm going to use a dog that was a very nice dog that we bred that we didn't show for very long, but he was he made his mark in the show ring here. A dog called Jack the Stripper, who was out of Donny's little sister. And he produced a beautiful bitch that went to Canada. We sent to Canada. We never bred it, but we sent a bitch to Canada called Ellie Mae. So it's all there's some exciting things going on anyway, for sure. So
that's great. Xiomara is asking you, knowing there is no perfect dog, what would you like to change in your breeding program?
Well, in poodles, tails, Jesus Christ, you know, the tails are such a problem because, you know,
she has specified she's interested in your breeding program of the American Cockers.
Okay. Well, actually, funnily enough, some of the tails in American Cockers that are now like Shih Tzus, I'm amazed that these animals can win, you know, when they come right over the back. But so that's one thing, but thankfully we haven't got that. In our breeding program, I guess that it's kind of a difficult one because it's always, with the Cockers, it's always a balancing act to get everything that you want, you know, but the most important thing and the most difficult thing to keep is a sporting little dog rather than just hair and you know, like they're not just hair and glamour. They have to be a sporting dog first and foremost. And so that's the thing that I think we've always got to try and be aware that we're not breeding too fancy. You know, that something that's basically a really good sporting little dog with good movement, good conformation is the most important thing, and it's the most difficult thing to sort of maintain, I should say.
Yeah. We have two questions which are quite similar from Wayne Doxick, who is asking, should this color not recognized be DNA tested prior to being Kennel Club registered? And Perry Burnside is asking similar, do you think that both parents should have a DNA profile submitted as a way of going forward before registration documents are issued from the Kennel Club would help the issue of incorrect colors?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, Auntie. I think that is is beyond my. I don't think I can give you a definitive answer to that, because I'm not sure how accurate. I mean, if something has had the colour put in 10 generations ago, would it? I don't know. I actually, to be honest with you, it's a question I can't answer, because I don't feel as though I have the knowledge to be able to answer it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
For
That's the best, to have the answer, honest answer. Lizzie Louisa Morley is asking you, do you still have any Pekingese at home?
No.
No.
They are a lovely breed. They are a lovely breed. I had a black bitch that went down to Winnie's, and that was our last one. And you know, there's something really extraordinary when you get the perfect eye expression on a Pekingese. These beautiful, beautiful, not poppy eyes, but like a large eye, and this finish of muscle with the two things I can't bear to see on Pekingese is little eyes and no chin. They're just awful. But this classical Pekingese with this large, never popping eye, just a large full eye, and with this wonderful finish of chin. It's just a beautiful thing. Gorgeous.
Yeah,
kind of missed that. She had.
Yeah. Zara Boyle is asking you, how did you get Ed Sheeran to sing about your kennel?
Well, of course, I just phoned him up and said, "Don't you think this is a good idea, Ed?" Just, I guess we plagiarised the name in the first place. So. There was Afterglows before us. It wasn't. We didn't have a right to a stamp to say it was ours. So
yeah. Okay. Here it is. A question from Leta Mar. She said, "I had two questions. What do you think about doodles, and how big problem it is for a poodle breed? Have your dogs ever gotten to a doodle breeder?"
Well, we know that there's been dogs advertised that. I mean, sadly, if you're a well-known kennel, and you know, Afterglow is quite well known in poodles. So, I mean, there have been adverts that said that for crossbreeds that have said, you know, Afterglow bloodlines or sire, grand sire. The problem is that we can't, you know, you can't control what people do with the puppies that you sell. So. And it's not even the ones that we sell, because I think we're really careful. But if somebody uses one of our stud dogs, and you tell them before you use the stud dog that you've got to be really careful, you've got to really. But of course, people can be very convincing, and sometimes they go to people who think, oh, you know, I've got a standard poodle male here, I'm going to use him, I'm going to offer him at stud. Well, if he's sired by one of our dogs, then all of a sudden you've got your breeding in these labradoodles and what have you. Well, there's nothing. And to be honest with you, there's nothing you can do about it. Is you've just got to just go on. And what I've got to say is that we breed, and breeders have got to get their heads into this concept. We have not got a right to tell anybody what they can buy. So we have to accept that these crossbreeds are here. What we must try and do is, as a kennel club around the world, we must do our best with our pedigree dogs to breed fantastic dogs. Number one. Number two, we should explain why a pedigree dog from health-tested parents is infinitely better than a crossbreed from generations of untested parents, for obvious reasons there. But our kennel club and everybody, they should be saying, really, look, if you want to buy a dog and you want to buy a crossbreed, then that's your choice. But what you must do is you must go to a proper breeder, a breeder who does health testing, because there are some crossbreed, you know, there's some of these people breeding the crossbreeds who are health testing. And if they're doing that and people want to buy the puppies, then who are we to actually say they can't do that? We might be irritated by it, you know, but it's not our position to tell people what they can buy and what they can't buy. What we must do is try harder as breeders to breed beautiful dogs. You know, we get so many referrals because, you know, pet people take pet puppies that we've bred out that are friendly and cute, and people admire them and say, you know, that's beautiful. Where did you get that from? Well, we've got to make sure that we're breeding those dogs so that for every dog, every pedigree dog that goes out there with that's beautiful, you know, you're doing what that, you know, you're doing a great service to the breed, selling high quality pets to people, pedigree pets, because they take them out. They're out there all the time, and they're the ones that are spreading the word for you, for us, for pedigree breeders. You know, people don't go to dog shows all the time, but our dogs, our pedigree dogs, are out there in every city, every town in the world, and they've got to be fantastic, and that will keep pedigree dogs going.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Celia Bell is asking you, what does Mike consider makes a good handler?
Well, it can't be about the handler for a start. You know, I've said about these perfect partnerships of Jason with Ricky, Tom with Nora. You know, they're just, there's so many of them. You know, Gavin with Jilly, and there's just these moments where these dogs, and what it is, it's got to be about the dog. So the perfect handler for a start off is a little bit quiet, a little bit, you know, just standing slightly away from, you know, it's not glaring at the judges, it's being a little bit understated. But the perfect handler is the person who can get in, who understands that dog so well that they anticipate their next move, they anticipate how they're going to behave, so that they can prevent a crisis, they can enhance something that's happening that's fabulous. They know when there's this phenomenal burst, you know, like this sudden moment when they're on fire and they're going around the ring, and they know not to hold them back, or, you know, it's all about being inside and in tune with that dog, and they are the perfect handlers, and it's rare that somebody can put on a perfect performance with a ringside pickup, you know, that because they don't know the dog that well. They can do a perfectly adequate job, but the special moments are the moments where there's this bond with the dog and the owner. And
that's true. I also, whenever we have this you know, handling seminars for young people, and if I judge junior handling or something, I always say actually it is the connection between a handler and a dog that makes it perfect, not anything else. Steve Rooney is asking you, I don't know exactly what does it mean, would Mike ever consider a long coat Chihuahua as opposed to a smooth coat?
The point is, I'm just going to try and put a connection in my phone for a minute. I do apologise for a second.
Okay.
Here we go. We're back on. I'm going to have to hold the phone for a bit because now the bottom bit. Look, the Chihuahuas, I've always liked Chihuahuas. They're a beautiful breed. It's just that there was a time when the cheetahs were at the top of their game, when there were so many of these beautiful, beautiful Chihuahuas. I mean, she just had a period of, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years where they were extraordinary. There was no getting away from it. Prior to that, I'd seen a Chihuahua called Daniel Dumbo Ears. I thought it was the best name ever for a Chihuahua. And Amici, it was actually somebody quite local to us here. And again, when I saw him, I thought, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And in that dog had a look of some of these dogs that came after him. But in long coats, I've seen some wonderful long coats, some really wonderful long coats. You know, I mean, nobody could not fall head over heels with Donut. She stayed in our kennels several times. You know, when Shelder came up to Blackpool and showed at Blackpool, I mean, I was terrified she was there. I thought, Christ, if anything happens to it, you know, that's the all-time all-breed CC record winner of any breed. You know, she was a glorious thing. But there's been many. There was the trouble is my memory's a bit sketchy with long coats, but I've seen several that I would love to have owned. It's just that when I first had an interest in wanting Chihuahuas, I wanted specifically. I mean, an old girl called Diane Lunny, not Looney, Lunny. She wouldn't like that. Yeah, she had Pretty in Pink and the little. She had two. There was a little brother and sister, Pretty in Pink, and I can't remember what the brother was called. They were incredible, absolutely incredible. These smooth coats, they captured my imagination. So, and that it was the moment when I wanted a Chihuahua where these smooths were just at the top of their game. But since then, I've seen a lot. I'd love a gorgeous long coat. They're beautiful. They're Chihuahuas when all said and done.
Yeah. Daniela Duarte is asking you, there is some advice you would give on handling a standard poodle in the ring. Is there something special? Because they can be sometimes a little bit wild, I think.
Yeah, they are wild. And what you shouldn't do with a standard poodle is you shouldn't try to make them tame. You shouldn't. To be honest with you, part of the, people, new handlers of standard poodles get very tense when they go in the ring, particularly if they've got a naughty youngster. What they have to remember is that all of us who show particularly standard poodles have been made to look like idiots by these dogs behaving badly. But it's the joy of a standard poodle that behaves like that. That is one of the beautiful things about that breed. They're clowns, and you should allow them to be. I mean, obviously there needs to be a balance. You can't have just something that just runs amok and goes crazy. But what I'm saying is that as a judge, I want poodles not to behave perfectly. I want them to be full of life and drama. And if you have something that's beautifully trained and doesn't put a foot wrong and doesn't move a muscle, and really you're taking away what we all find attractive about poodles. They're full of life. They're full of life. So
that's true.
Let's celebrate that. Let's not try and bring it down.
Celia is asking you, your kennel club names are so imaginative. How do you choose them?
Tom has a list on his phone, and every time we hear of a name, if I think of anything, they just come out of the blue sometimes, and I think, that'd be a great name, so we write them down. But I was trained by one of the greatest people at naming dogs, which was, of course, Ken Sinclair, who was had a big influence on me when I was young. He's a lot older than me, of course, but the point was he had incredible names, and I mean he's had names that I think that were passed and then taken back off him because the Kennel Club had kind of realised. I think when Ken's names go into the Kennel Club, I think there's some sort of light. Like there's a little flashing light comes up on the computer that says, beware, watch out for these names. And of course, I can't even repeat some of the names that he's had, but it's kind of, and some breeds kind of suit a cute, perhaps slightly risky name. And then other breeds like standards, I think they've always got to be they've got to be serious but fabulous, haven't they? So I love the Big T's. I thought it was like just one of the best names for standard poodle. And he had a brother, funny enough, and I kind of wasted the name because he wasn't a show dog. He was a bit heavy, but he had a brother called Pump Up the Volume. In fact, after 10 years, we can use the name again. So there'll be a Pump Up the Volume in the future. So.
Okay, wonderful. Caroline Marvel is asking you, how many breedings does it take to breed out a fault in a standard poodle?
Well, it depends on the fault because some things you can get rid of instantly. Bad fronts, God, in any breed. Once you get bad fronts, it's really difficult to breed them out. So, but some things, you can have on a tour, you might have something with bad feet, and the next generation you've got good feet. It's. I mean, you've got to obviously breed something with good feet, but there's quite a few things that. The thing that's always a difficulty really is tails, because the problem with the tails is that when we docked, a lot of the docked tails, if you left the tail on, would have gone over the bag, and so again, tails are difficult because you can breed two perfect tails together and get bad tails. Not that we would advocate it, but you could breed two tails that weren't brilliant, and you could end up with brilliant tails. They're a bit of they're not easy. It's not easy to breed good tails, you know.
Yeah. June is asking you, how many breeds do you have at home at the moment?
We have Papillon, Affenpinscher, Shetland Sheepdog, Standard and Toy Poodles, and American Cockers.
Okay. Lee Grogan is asking you, do you like competing in groups and best in show, or do you feel dog showing should begin and end in the breed ring?
No, there has to be groups and best in show. I think it's, you know, the breed ring is vitally important, but the group is somewhere to be proud of your best of breed winner, and you know, and I think that if we can get to a situation where we do have people watching breeds, you know, and trying to, you know, they can't watch every breed at the same time. So, you know, for the public, it's crucial that there's groups and best in show. And apart from which, you know, at every level of showing animals, you know, if you go to a bird show, there's not, you know, you don't just have best yellow canary, you know, the canaries all, you know, I think it's important anyway, put it that way.
Yeah. Lorraine K is asking you, what has been the most embarrassing moment in your show career?
Oh, guys, there's been loads of them. Loads. I can't just. Well, I guess. I mean, I don't know whether it's embarrassing, but I got into a lot of trouble. One year at Crufts, I had a microphone on, and there was a group of I think I can't remember which company it was now. I think it might have been the BBC at the time, who were following us round. We were showing Riot, and we were showing American Cockers, and goodness knows what. And I had a really good bitch at the time, an American Cocker bitch, called Comblywood Loved. She was a. Oh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yes.
Anyway, Love to Party was a champion bitch. She was a group winner. She was a daughter of Dexter. You know, Dexter was Pistols at Dawn. And she was a really lovely bitch. Anyway, it wasn't obvious that we were being filmed because they're not often right close up to you and you can't see the microphone or anything. But on that day, we were beaten with Comblywood Love to Party. And the woman who bred her came up going berserk, saying, "You were robbed. You were effing robbed. You were robbed." So that I was like, "Oh my god!" And then in Afghans, we got the bitch ticket in Afghans, and the dog ticket was won by Roberta Hall, and we had this extraordinary wait for best of breed because there was two judges. There was a bitch judge and the dog judge. And we were sat in the ring, the best of breed ring, and we were kind of separate from each other, but the tension mounted, and it was like 40 minutes before the group judge, who was Marion Spavin, arrived. I don't think anybody could find her, bless her. But anyway, when she arrived, I think we'd reached kind of a bit of a fever pitch, the two CC winners, because it was all a bit nerve-wracking, you know, waiting for the group judge to decide best of breed. And I won with Riot, and Roberta, when I went to embrace her, she was bloody hitting me, like thumping me, and I was like, it was kind of weird, really. I put my arms around. I mean, it wasn't like she was trying to beat me up, but she was actually. It was just a bit of fun, but it was actually a bit over the top. It was a little bit, you know, like a child had had too many jelly tarts. You know, the E numbers was, and I had to put my arms around her in the end because she was like sort of beating me and calling me an unspeakable name because I'd beaten her. But as I say, I mean, I'm really close friends with Roberta, so it was in fun, but it probably didn't look great on camera either.
Okay. Okay. Believe it or not, I think we are finally out of questions. There have been a few more that we have already mentioned, so I didn't read them. It has been 353 comments, and most of them were questions, and I'm happy that we have managed to answer almost all of them, and that we have managed to answer all the ones from the previous interview. I'm really happy that so many people have watched it again, and that they have enjoyed it, and we have managed to do it almost in 3 hours. Mike, I'm very proud of us. And
Oh, sorry. Are you there?
yes, I'm here.
Good. That's okay. I lost you for a moment.
Yeah, you are there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that has been it more or less for tonight. As I said, first of all, thanks a lot for accepting again the invitation to come and to finish the job that we didn't finish last time. And obviously now there is already a people who are writing we want part 3 and the 6, but but now I think we have been extremely nice to everyone, and we have answered absolutely every question that was there, and I'm extremely happy about that. Nothing. I hope that soon the shows will start again. You see, Desi Murphy, will you have chapter 3? They are getting. Anyhow, there are a lot of people writing absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for another great interview and so on. So I'm really happy people have enjoyed it, and I have enjoyed it too. As I said, there are people like Steve Rooney who says I've drank a bottle of wine watching. So I hope that the shows are going to start soon again, and we can all meet in live and continue doing something like this in another way, maybe in something else. But this has been great, and I really hope that people have learned a lot, and that they have, in a way, catched your passion for dogs, which is amazing. And that's probably why the success is so big behind you, because every time when you speak about dogs, you can see that there is a lot of passion involved, and I think that there are no great things that can happen without passion. So thanks again, Mike. Thanks also to
Ante, I must say before you go that it's you're doing it. Listen, you know, it's nice that people are interested in what I've got to say, but more importantly, it's fantastic that you're allowing, you know, you've created something with the people who you're working with to do this, and I think that anything that is good for this sport, and this certainly is, because it's, you know, that you're covering a lot of different people with a lot of different expertise. So well done to you for organising this whole thing.
Thanks.
And for a little team that you're working with.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Thanks a lot. I think it's I think in these modern times, it's nice that we managed to cover some of the most famous people from the dog world, and that this is something that is going to stay for the generations to come, you know, and be able maybe in 20, 30 years watch Mike Gadsby and Attelucci talking about dogs and thinking how crazy we were or whatever. Anyhow, thank you everybody for watching. Thanks, Mike, once again. On Wednesday, I will interview another amazing breeder, Revaz Komasuridze from Russia, who is very famous for his Avigdor's French Bulldogs. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to see you all next Wednesday. Good night, everybody. And thanks again. Bye.
Good night.
Walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town.